On day one, they came to me with a complete set of false muscles. Came out and was holding our body stocking complete with fake shoulder pads and the whole thing. And I said, listen, excuse me, but it's either me or the muscles, but not both of this, which is a bit tenuous because at that point they could ask me to split.
When Superman, the movie, soared into theaters in 1978, audiences truly believed a man could fly. But behind the cape, the camera, and the Kryptonian glow lay secrets even lifelong fans never noticed.
It took me a while to get going again. You know, when you lay off something for a long period of time, you have to sort of get up for it again. And I found that sequence where Superman confronts himself is one of the richest parts of the movie. It's slightly surreal and even a bit scary.
From daring stunts that nearly went wrong to groundbreaking technology that changed cinema forever, the making of Superman was as heroic as the story itself. Hidden within almost every scene are fascinating details, experiments, accidents, and creative miracles that brought the world's first big-screen superhero to life. Here are 20 cinema secrets you probably missed in the movie, and number 11 is about a surprising government involvement. Number 20. You'll believe a man can fly. Before Superman, the movie began filming, no one had ever made a man look like he could fly in a realistic way. Early tests using wires, dummies, and animation all failed. Superman either looked weightless or cartoonish. Director Richard Donner knew that if they didn't fix this, the movie would never work. That's when special effects expert Zoran Perisic invented a brand new camera trick called the Zoptic system, named after himself. This system completely changed how Superman's flying scenes were filmed. It used two synchronized zoom lenses, one on the camera filming Christopher Reeve, and another projecting background footage onto a reflective screen behind him. Both lenses zoomed in and out at the same speed and direction, creating the illusion that Superman was moving toward or away from the camera, even though he was actually hanging still on wires. This was revolutionary. Instead of cutting between models or fake skies, audiences saw Reeve flying smoothly through clouds, over cities, and across landscapes, all in one continuous shot. Because the lighting on the projection matched Reeve perfectly, the effect looked natural and three-dimensional. Combined with Reeve's body control and the new flexible wire rig, the Zoptic system made Superman's flight scenes believable for the first time in cinema history. It was such a breakthrough that Hollywood used versions of the same technique for years afterward. Thanks to this invention, moviegoers really did believe a man could fly. Number 19. Christopher Reeve was almost rejected. When casting for Superman began, hundreds of actors were considered, and almost none of them looked like the comic book hero everyone knew. The producers wanted someone famous, someone who could guarantee box office success. Names like Robert Redford, Burt Reynolds, Paul Newman, and James Caan were all mentioned. But director Richard Donner had a different vision. He wanted a newcomer who could make the audience believe Superman was real, not just a movie star wearing a cape. Then came Christopher Reeve, a tall, classically trained actor from Juilliard. But at first glance, he didn't fit the part. He was lean, shy, and far from the muscle-bound superhero image. When he auditioned, many on the team thought he looked too boyish and lacked the strength the role demanded. Still, Donner saw something special in his calm confidence and gentle charm, traits that captured both Superman's nobility and Clark Kent's awkward kindness. The skinny actor transformed into the perfect Man of Steel. More importantly, his performance brought warmth and humanity to the role, making audiences believe that Superman wasn't just strong, but good. Christopher Reeve's casting became one of the greatest decisions in movie history. But he was not the only actor whose involvement changed the outcome of the movie. The next fact was impactful. Number 18. Marlon Brando's huge payday. When Superman was announced, one of the biggest surprises wasn't about the hero. It was about his father. The producers wanted a world-class actor to play Jor-El, Superman's Kryptonian father, and they set their sights on Marlon Brando, one of the most respected and difficult stars in Hollywood. Brando agreed to take the role, but only under extraordinary conditions. He demanded a salary of $3.7 million, plus 11.7% of the film's profits, an unheard-of deal for just 12 days of work. At a time when most actors earned a fraction of that, it was shocking. But the producers agreed, believing Brando's name would give the film prestige and help audiences take a comic book movie seriously. However, Brando's eccentric reputation followed him to the set. He initially refused to read the script, suggesting that Jor-El should appear as a talking green suitcase or a floating energy cloud instead of a person. Director Richard Donner patiently convinced him otherwise, emphasizing the importance of Jor-El's humanity in the story. Despite his brief appearance, Brando's presence elevated the movie's tone and credibility. His Jor-El became one of the most memorable father figures in film history, and his massive paycheck became a Hollywood legend. Number 17. Brando never read the script aloud. Marlon Brando was famous not just for his acting brilliance, but also for his unusual working habits, and Superman was no exception. When he agreed to play Jor-El, Superman's father, he made it clear that he would not memorize his lines. Instead, Brando preferred to read his dialogue from cue cards placed around the set. This was his signature method, one he believed made his delivery sound more natural and spontaneous. For the film's crew, this created quite a challenge. They had to hide cue cards in clever places, on walls, inside props, and even on other actors. In one now famous example, Brando's lines were written on baby Kal-El's diaper, so that when he looked down lovingly at the child, he could also read his dialogue. It was both amusing and genius in its own way. Though Brando only filmed for 12 days, his performance carried immense weight. Some other tool proved way more risky, almost ending the production. Number 16. The helicopter rescue scene nearly ended in disaster. One of the most unforgettable moments in Superman is the helicopter rescue atop the Daily Planet building. The moment when Superman first reveals himself to the world. Superman soars up the skyscraper and catches Lois mid-fall. But behind the camera, this legendary scene was one of the most dangerous and complex sequences in the entire production. The combination of live-action stunts, miniatures, and wire work made it extremely risky. The crew had to build a massive replica of the Daily Planet rooftop, complete with a real helicopter mounted on wires. Actress Margot Kidder, Lois Lane, was suspended several stories above the ground for parts of the sequence, while wind machines blasted her to simulate the rotor's force. To achieve realistic shots of Superman catching Lois in mid-air, director Richard Donner used a mix of techniques: a stunt double for Kidder, a crane harness for Christopher Reeve, and carefully composited background plates showing the city below. Every move had to be timed perfectly. One mistake could have caused serious injury. At one point, a helicopter prop actually malfunctioned during a test, sending pieces of metal crashing onto the set. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the crew realized just how close disaster had come. Despite the risks, the final sequence worked flawlessly. The helicopter rescue became one of cinema's most thrilling and emotional superhero moments, the perfect introduction to Superman as a symbol of courage, hope, and humanity. It proved that audiences truly could believe a man can fly. Number 15. 2 movies shot together. One of the most ambitious moves in Hollywood history was the decision to film Superman and Superman 2 at the same time. The producers, Alexander and Ilya Salkind, believed it would save time and money since both stories were directly connected. The plan was to shoot enough footage for both films in a single production schedule, something rarely attempted before in the late 1970s. Director Richard Donner took on the enormous task of managing two overlapping scripts, hundreds of crew members, and complex visual effects. Nearly 75% of Superman 2 was filmed while Superman was still in production. Scenes with General Zod and his Kryptonian villains were shot alongside Clark Kent's early adventures, sometimes on the same day. It was a constant juggling act. But the project's massive scope soon led to problems. Costs spiraled out of control, eventually reaching $55 million, an enormous amount for the time. The intense schedule and creative clashes between Donner and the producers only made things worse. Tension grew on set, and eventually, filming on Superman 2 had to be halted so that Donner could focus entirely on finishing the first film in time for its 1978 release. After Superman became a worldwide hit, the producers replaced Donner with another director to complete Superman 2. Still, much of Donner's original footage remained in the final version. There's more shocking information on decision Donner made during the production that made it unique. Number 14. Real locations, not sets. Unlike many fantasy films of the 1970s, Superman didn't rely entirely on studio sets or painted backdrops. Director Richard Donner wanted the story to feel grounded, as if Superman truly came from a real place, not a make-believe world. To achieve that, the production team traveled across North America in search of authentic, believable landscapes. They found their perfect Smallville in Alberta, Canada, where wide fields, wooden barns, and endless skies created the quiet, rural atmosphere of Superman's childhood home. The Kent family farm was built on real farmland near Blackie, Alberta, and even though the crew had to endure freezing temperatures, the location brought warmth and realism to the film. It looked like a place where Clark Kent could genuinely have grown up. Filming on location also allowed the movie to capture natural light and weather, something that would have been impossible to recreate on a soundstage. Many of its scenes were filmed in New York City, which gave the fictional city its real-world energy and scale. By combining real towns, real streets, and real skies, Superman grounded its fantasy in reality. Next fact is beyond locations, but government involvement. Number 13. CIA became interested in Superman the movie. In a scenario that seems lifted from a spy thriller, the Central Intelligence Agency actively surveilled Superman's international distribution during the Cold War era. The agency's interest wasn't coincidental. The film's core messaging about truth, justice, and American values positioned it as an instrument of cultural influence during a period of intense ideological competition between superpowers. Intelligence operatives carefully documented audience reactions in Soviet-controlled territories, paying particular attention to how viewers responded to the film's depictions of heroism, free market capitalism, and individual empowerment. The CIA maintained surveillance of screenings throughout Eastern Bloc nations, including East Germany, Czechoslovakia, and Poland, analyzing the film's potential impact on populations living under communist regimes. Beyond mere observation, the agency took active measures by financing translated versions for strategic distribution in targeted regions. Their objective was clear: utilize Superman as a vehicle for promoting pro-Western ideology and democratic values behind the Iron Curtain. This remarkable chapter reveals how Superman transcended its role as mere entertainment, becoming weaponized as cultural propaganda. The film that nearly bankrupted its producers and faced countless production disasters ultimately served dual purposes: thrilling audiences worldwide while simultaneously advancing American interests during one of history's most tense geopolitical standoffs. Superman's cape carried more than just a hero. It carried an entire ideology across enemy lines. Number 12. Gene Hackman's mustache drama. When Gene Hackman was cast as Lex Luthor, the criminal mastermind in Superman, it seemed like the perfect choice. Hackman was already an Oscar-winning actor known for his intensity and charisma. But from the very first day, one small detail caused unexpected trouble: his mustache. Hackman had grown it for a previous film and refused to shave it off. He told director Richard Donner that Lex Luthor could have a mustache, arguing it made him look more distinguished. Donner disagreed completely. He believed Luthor should have a clean, sharp look, a face that reflected his ruthless intelligence. The standoff went on for days, and neither man was willing to back down. Finally, Donner came up with a clever trick. One afternoon, he invited Hackman to his office and said, "If you shave yours, I'll shave mine." Hackman agreed, laughing, and together they stood in front of a mirror. Donner then wiped away his own fake mustache, revealing it had been drawn on with makeup the whole time. Hackman burst out laughing, and moments later, his mustache was gone. The story became one of the film's most famous behind-the-scenes moments, showing how humor solved what could have been a stubborn argument. In the end, Hackman's clean-shaven look became iconic. His portrayal of Lex Luthor, confident, arrogant, and dangerously charming, remains one of the best comic book villains ever put on screen, mustache or not. Number 11. The Fortress of Solitude was massive, one of the most breathtaking sets in Superman. The movie was The Fortress of Solitude, Superman's icy sanctuary in the Arctic. The moment it appears, rising from a crystal shard into a glowing palace of light, remains one of the most visually stunning scenes in cinema history. But creating this otherworldly fortress was no simple task. It became one of the largest and most complex sets ever built for a film in the late 1970s. Director Richard Donner wanted the fortress to feel alien yet spiritual, a place of peace, reflection, and mystery. Instead of using metallic or futuristic designs, the production team chose a natural, crystalline look. Set designers John Barry and Leslie Dilley, who had just worked on Star Wars, created a massive structure made from translucent acrylic panels, glass, and salt crystal textures. The combination of sharp angles and glowing white surfaces gave the fortress its haunting, otherworldly beauty. Lighting was the secret ingredient. The crew used hundreds of hidden lights to make the crystals shimmer and glow from within. Different colors were layered through filters, giving the set a living, breathing quality on camera. When Superman stood inside, the reflections danced across his costume, making the entire space look real and alive. The fortress set was so large it had to be built on one of Pinewood Studios' biggest sound stages in England. The crew spent weeks perfecting every angle and reflection so the structure would appear endless on screen. The result was magical. Number 10. The flying rig nearly killed Reeve. Bringing Superman's flight to life wasn't just a technical challenge, it was also physically dangerous. Actor Christopher Reeve performed most of his own flying scenes using a custom-built harness system that suspended him high above the ground. While the final results looked smooth and effortless on screen, the process behind them was anything but easy, and at one point, it nearly ended in disaster. To achieve realistic flight, the crew designed a complex wire rig that allowed Reeve to tilt, roll, and glide through the air. The wires were extremely thin to remain invisible on camera, but that also made them fragile. Each flight setup required careful balancing and precise coordination between camera operators, lighting crews, and the stunt team. If one element failed, Reeve could be seriously injured. During one rehearsal, that fear nearly became reality. As Reeve was suspended several feet above the ground, a harness cable suddenly slipped, causing him to drop abruptly before crew members rushed in to catch him. Luckily, he wasn't hurt, but the incident sent shockwaves through the set. From that moment on, Donner insisted on even stricter safety protocols. Extra harnesses, reinforced wires, and a backup suspension system were added for all future flight scenes. But there's more interesting revelation about the Superman soared. Number 9. Christopher Reeve transformation. When Christopher Reeve landed the role of Superman in 1978, he faced a significant physical challenge. At just 170 pounds, his lean frame didn't match the imposing physique audiences expected from the Man of Steel. While studio executives suggested taking shortcuts with padded costumes, a common practice in film production, Reeve rejected these artificial solutions. He was determined to embody Superman authentically, believing the role demanded genuine physical transformation rather than Hollywood illusions. To achieve this goal, Reeve enlisted David Prowse as his personal trainer, a former British weightlifting champion who would later become famous as the physical performer behind Darth Vader in Star Wars. Under Prowse's guidance, Reeve embarked on an intensive 12-month training program combining heavy weightlifting with a carefully structured nutrition plan designed to build substantial muscle mass. Despite the prevalence of performance-enhancing substances in both athletic and entertainment circles during the 1970s, Reeve firmly declined to use steroids. He committed instead to natural bodybuilding methods, demonstrating extraordinary dedication to his craft. Through consistent training and disciplined eating, he successfully added 40 pounds of solid muscle to his frame. This remarkable transformation proved crucial to the film's success. Reeve's authentic strength and physical presence brought credibility to every scene. Whether Superman was lifting cars, throwing punches, or soaring through the sky on wires, his muscular physique moved naturally and powerfully, making audiences believe a man could truly fly. Number 8. Hidden tribute to Superman's creators. Behind all the spectacle and special effects of Superman, the movie, there was a quiet but heartfelt tribute hidden in plain sight, a nod to the men who started it all, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, the original creators of Superman. Without them, there would have been no Man of Steel, no Krypton, and no story of hope that inspired generations. But in the 1970s, Siegel and Shuster were living in poverty, long after selling the rights to their famous hero for just $130 back in 1938. When the movie went into production, the filmmakers wanted to honor them in some way. On a Daily Planet building directory seen briefly on screen, eagle-eyed viewers can spot their names listed among the tenants, Siegel and Shuster. It's a blink-and-you'll-miss-it detail, but one filled with deep meaning. For fans who knew the history, it was a symbolic way of saying that Superman's true creators were still part of his world. At the same time, the film's success helped bring national attention to Siegel and Shuster's difficult situation. Public pressure grew after their story became known, and just before the movie's release, Warner Brothers and DC Comics agreed to provide them with a lifetime pension and official credit on all future Superman works. Through that gesture, Superman the movie not only celebrated a legend, but also restored dignity to the heroes who created him. The movie brought more than creators to national light. There is another groundbreaking technique employed by the production team. Number 7. The opening credits were revolutionary. From the very first moment Superman the movie begins, it announces itself as something extraordinary. Long before audiences even see the hero, they are greeted with a sweeping fanfare by John Williams and an opening credits sequence unlike anything ever seen before in cinema. Those glowing blue letters streaking across the screen, shimmering, whooshing, and zooming toward the viewer, became instantly iconic. But in 1978, creating that effect was an enormous technical challenge that required months of work and innovation. The film's title sequence was designed by Richard Greenberg and his team at R/Greenberg Associates, who were pioneers in motion graphics. Director Richard Donner wanted the opening to feel powerful, like the viewer was being pulled through space, just as if Superman himself were flying past. Since computer-generated effects barely existed at the time, the team had to create the illusion optically, using cameras, light streaks, and multiple film exposures. Each letter of the names was filmed separately using motion-controlled cameras and backlit glass panels to give the glowing blue light. The streaking effect was achieved by running the film backward and forward through the camera multiple times, synchronizing the light trails with the music's rhythm. The process was incredibly slow, sometimes taking an entire day to produce just one name. The result was worth every effort. As the opening credits soared through space to John Williams's heroic score, audiences were completely captivated. It was a bold, cinematic announcement that made Superman feel truly larger than life. Number 6. A massive script rewrite. When Superman, the movie, first entered production, the original script was far from the serious, emotional story audiences know today. The early drafts, written by Mario Puzo, the celebrated author of The Godfather, were enormous in scale but also full of campy humor and exaggerated characters. The tone leaned more toward parody than myth, with scenes that felt cartoonish rather than cinematic. Director Richard Donner knew immediately that this version would not work. He wanted people to take Superman seriously, not laugh at him. To fix the problem, Donner brought in screenwriter Tom Mankiewicz, who had previously worked on several James Bond films. His job was to reshape the entire story into something more grounded and emotional. Mankiewicz didn't throw everything away. He kept Puzo's epic vision, but gave it heart and balance. Together, Donner and Mankiewicz focused on one idea: verisimilitude, the sense of truth. Even in a world with aliens and superheroes, everything had to feel believable. They stripped out the sillier moments, rewrote much of the dialogue, and strengthened the emotional core, especially Superman's relationship with his adoptive parents, Lois Lane, and his Kryptonian heritage. They also emphasized moral themes like hope, sacrifice, and identity. The result was a perfect blend of grandeur and humanity. Critics and audiences responded immediately, praising the film's emotional depth and sincerity. Donner later said that Mankiewicz saved Superman. Without that rewrite, the movie might have been forgotten. Instead, it became the gold standard for all superhero films that followed. Number 5. Krypton's design was inspired by diamonds. Director Richard Donner wanted Krypton to feel pure and alien, not like Earth or any other world humans could imagine. To bring that vision to life, production designer John Barry, who had just finished designing Star Wars, drew inspiration from natural crystal and diamond formations. The team studied how light refracted through transparent minerals and used that as the foundation for Krypton's architecture. The result was a civilization that seemed to grow out of light and energy rather than concrete or steel. To build the sets, crews used reflective plastics, glass panels, and polished acrylic, combined with carefully placed lighting that made the surfaces glow from within. The set design gave Krypton an almost spiritual atmosphere, suggesting both its advanced technology and its isolation. Everything from Jor-El's council chamber to the glowing launch platform that sends baby Kal-El to Earth was designed to feel like a monument of brilliance slowly fading away. The crystalline Krypton became so iconic that its design influenced nearly every Superman adaptation that followed, forever defining how we imagine the hero's lost homeworld. Number 4. A real meteor shower was used. One of the most magical moments in Superman. The movie comes early in the story, the night when baby Kal-El's spaceship crashes to Earth. As his pod streaks through the sky, the Kent family looks up to see a brilliant meteor shower lighting up the heavens over rural Kansas. What most people don't realize is that part of that stunning sky sequence used real footage of meteor trails and atmospheric light phenomena. Back in the late 1970s, creating realistic night skies and falling stars was extremely difficult. Computer-generated imagery didn't exist, and painted backdrops often looked flat or artificial. To solve this, cinematographer Jeffrey Unsworth and the special effects team decided to blend real astronomical footage with practical lighting effects shot on set. They used long exposure photography of real meteor showers and falling stars captured on film over several nights. These images were then carefully combined with miniature effects and glowing light rigs positioned off-camera to simulate meteor streaks across the Kansas sky. The mix of genuine celestial motion and handcrafted effects created a seamless, natural look, as if the heavens themselves were opening to welcome Superman to Earth. Number 3. The precarious cost of the movie. The production of Superman in 1978 became one of Hollywood's most precarious financial gambles, threatening to destroy the very people who dared to bring it to life. Producers Alexander and Ilya Salkind had built reputations as bold risk-takers in the film industry, known for their willingness to bet everything on ambitious projects. Their confidence in Superman was so absolute that they began selling international distribution rights before a single frame had been filmed. An aggressive strategy that would soon come back to haunt them. What began as a $25 million production quickly spiraled out of control. The budget more than doubled, eventually exceeding $55 million, making it one of the most expensive films ever produced at that time. As expenses continued climbing, the Salkinds found themselves in desperate need of additional capital. They approached Warner Brothers, the parent company of DC Comics, seeking financial rescue for their runaway production. However, the escalating costs had already spooked Warner Communications, the film's original distributor. Growing increasingly nervous about the project's viability, Warner completely withdrew its financial backing, leaving the producers scrambling for alternative funding sources. The Salkinds were forced to piece together financing through international pre-sale agreements and private investors willing to take a chance on the troubled production. The situation became so dire that filming in London nearly ground to a complete halt when crew members went unpaid. The production teetered on the edge of collapse, with Superman transforming into what many considered a financial catastrophe in the making. The irony was profound. A film about a hero who saves the world was consuming everyone involved in its creation. Then something remarkable happened. Upon its release, Superman became 1978's highest-grossing film, vindicating the Salkinds' vision. But the victory came at an enormous cost, as the production had nearly destroyed the careers and finances of the very producers who fought so hard to make it a reality. Number 2. A secret cameo from the producer's wife. In Superman. The movie, there's a charming and easily missed moment that connects directly to the film's production team. When Superman makes his first big public appearance in Metropolis, catching Lois Lane as she dangles from a crashed helicopter, The stunned crowd looks up in disbelief. Amid the gasps and cheers, one woman smiles and says, "What a nice outfit." It's a quick, humorous line that adds warmth and humanity to the scene. But what most viewers don't know is that this woman wasn't just any extra. She was the producer Ilya Salkind's wife, Maria Salkind. Maria's cameo was a playful inside joke and a way to personally mark the moment that would become one of cinema's most unforgettable superhero scenes. The producers wanted the movie to blend big spectacle with small, relatable touches, and this brief appearance captured that perfectly. While the flying effects and the dangerous stunt work drew gasps, her line reminded the audience that this Superman existed in a real, everyday world, one where people could react with simple wonder instead of just awe. Director Richard Donner loved moments like this. He believed that for audiences to believe in Superman, they also had to believe in the world around him, one filled with real people who could laugh, smile, or make a quick remark in the face of the extraordinary. That sense of humanity grounded the film. Number 1. The train scene came from a dream. The famous scene where young Clark Kent races a speeding train was not in the original plan. Director Richard Donner said he actually dreamed about it one night. In the dream, he saw a boy running beside a train, showing his secret powers. He thought it looked amazing and added it to the movie. The train scene became one of the most loved moments, showing how fast and powerful Clark was, even as a teenager. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.